Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming to learn a little bit more about Colorado's newest worker benefit, family and medical leave insurance, or as we've been lucky to adopt as an acronym, FAMLI, F-A-M-L-I. My name's Evan Grimes. I'm the policy unit manager for the family division, and I'm here with Michelle Beery from our communications team to talk to you some about family. I'll go over the agenda with you here. We'll cover a bit about the family program's history, a family update, and a look at coordinating family with other benefits. We'll take a look at the HR dashboard and how employers can report suspected fraud. We'll talk about private plans, some important things for employers to know. And then at the end of the presentation, we will take questions. I promise not to linger on the slides too long so that we can get to a more interactive Q&A session here. But to start, I wanted to celebrate the fact that family benefits have now been available for 9 months for Colorado workers. Approved claimants were able to take time away from their work at the start of this year. Some of you in the room may have worked on the long effort to make this reality in Colorado, but if not, here's a quick recap. As you may recall, Colorado voters approved paid family and medical leave in 2020 by a bipartisan vote of about 58%. And that made us, I believe it was the 9th state in the country to have a state paid family medical leave program, but don't hold me to that. In 2022, we started building out a program that would deliver what the voters wanted. In 2023, that's when employers and employees began contributing those premiums to fund the program. And then benefits launched starting January 1st of 2024. And so far, we're proud to say that benefits are being delivered, and we're pleased with how smoothly our program is working. So a closer look at some of the numbers. From January through mid-September of 2024, the family division has distributed more than $459 million in partial pay replacement to people taking approved absences from work. The average weekly benefit is about $922, and so far, more than 71,000 Colorado workers have already taken and finished a leave of absence for family. Next, wanted to note that almost everybody who filed a family claim completed the entire process online. Now, I want to talk about the top 2 reasons people are actually taking family leave. The most common reason people have is to tend to their own serious medical health condition. There have been more than 55,000 claims for that reason. The second most common reason is to bond with a new child. We've received more than 44,000 applications for bonding with a new child. And then at the bottom here, we note that the average leave duration for families so far has been about 53 days. To dive in with a refresher on the basics, family provides paid leave for Colorado workers to take care of themselves and their loved ones during certain life events, which we'll get into in a moment. The program covers almost all workers in Colorado, including those who are self-employed and decide they want to participate. The family program is a social insurance program with employers contributing to the fund and employers being allowed to collect contributions from their employees. The premiums are set to 0.9% of the employee's wage, and that would typically be the employer paying 0.45% and collecting up to 0.45% from the employees. The initial premium rate is 0.9%, although that will adjust according to some calculations as the program matures. And then family premiums are capped at 1.2% by law. That's as high as family premiums can ever go as the statute's written. It's been demonstrated in several states, though, that premiums have been able to decrease over time. So looking more at the life events that make Colorado workers eligible for benefits, family will provide up to 12 weeks of paid leave for Colorado workers to care for themselves and their loved ones. Those who experience pregnancy, childbirth complications may be eligible for up to an additional 4 weeks for a total of 16 weeks. Covered workers will be able to apply for paid family leave benefits during certain life events like managing their own serious health conditions, managing their family members' serious health conditions, making arrangements because of a military deployment, welcoming a new child into their family, or to deal with the immediate needs and impacts arising from domestic violence. The program covers almost all workers in Colorado, including those who are self-employed. A lot of folks have heard that small employers and local governments have opted out, but that doesn't mean that this benefit is not available to those employees. It just means that those employers aren't paying in any money. So here's a reminder of how much family benefits actually pay out. This chart gives some examples of what an employee's family payments may look like for workers who need to take it. Employees can receive up to 90% of their wages based on a sliding scale. So for example, if you make $500 a week, your family benefit would be about $450 a week. And again, benefits are capped at $1,100 per week. This weekly benefit cap is proportional to the average weekly wage for Colorado and may increase over time. That Colorado average weekly wage also impacts how we calculate benefits below the cap. And so in fact, Colorado's average weekly wage was adjusted up by 3.5% this year. So some people in the middle of their family leave at that time may have received a notice that their payments were changing as a result of that change. The weekly maximum hasn't changed. That wouldn't change until next year. We do have a benefit amount calculator on our website to help families get a rough estimate of both their deductions and eventual benefits payments. And then as a reminder, premiums are paid on gross wages up to the federal Social Security wage cap. So as that cap changes from year to year, so does the family wage cap for premiums. Next thing to know about family is that leave doesn't have to be taken all at once. The maximum amount of time for family leave is 12 weeks within a 12-month period, or 16 weeks in case of childbirth or pregnancy complications. Eligible workers can take paid time off as a single block of time or on an intermittent basis or as a reduced schedule. As you can expect, each situation will be unique according to the worker's needs. But the three types of leave broadly are continuous leave, intermittent leave, and reduced leave schedule. Continuous leave is where the leave is taken in one block all at once. Intermittent leave is for those separate blocks of time incurring at irregular intervals that aren't necessarily as predictable. And then the reduced work schedule is typically a reduction, say, from full-time to part-time. And so just as an example, we'll use a bonding leave claim. Let's say you welcome a new baby and would like to take 4 weeks to bond with the baby right after birth. Then you return to work for several weeks. Then you want to go back on leave to bond with the baby for the remaining 8 weeks before the child's first birthday. This scenario would be taken as 2 separate continuous leave claims. When you go to open your second or third block of continuous leave to bond with your child after returning to work for a period of time during the first year after the birth or the placement of that child, you'll be able to link it to the first claim, which will result in faster processing times. Typically, eligible Colorado workers can choose how and when to use their time, subject at sometimes to their healthcare provider's certification. And we have more information about those leave types on the individuals and families page on our website. Next, a little bit more detail about intermittent leave. It's been confusing for some workers and employers both. So here are some things to keep in mind. Intermittent means not constant or steady. We like to compare intermittent to the word irregular, meaning that you can't necessarily predict when you'll need it. Intermittent leave is for conditions that strike without warning, typically, like debilitating migraines. On the other hand, say you have a medical condition that requires treatment a couple days per month that are scheduled in advance. That type of leave could be filed as a reduced work schedule, not intermittent, because you know in advance when you'll need to be out. Workers will need to make sure their employers know when they're out, and they'll need to file timesheets with the family division each week they're on this kind of leave. So if you have an employee who opted for intermittent leave or reduced leave, they'll receive a weekly certification task at each Sunday, and their weekly deadline to complete it is every Tuesday. Just as a reminder, workers can't make more money on family than they normally would. So if someone has approved intermittent leave claim but fails to tell their employer on the days that they miss work, they may be overpaid if the employer still pays their regular wages on those days. If that happens, it's the employer who has a right to recoup that overpay. Again, we do have some more details about this on our website as well. Next, I'll talk briefly about the family claims process. The life of a claim really starts when there's a need for leave. In this case, let's say it's foreseeable, and the employee tells their employer that they'll be submitting a family claim. Of course, we know that people will have unexpected medical events, but this is the process for those foreseeable leaves, like having a surgery, for example. The employee will submit their application, and the family division will send employers a notification letting them know that the employee has done so. Once the employee gets all their supporting documentation in order, we'll let the employer know when the leave is approved. Once the leave begins, the pay replacement workers are getting comes from us, not from the employers. If they make any changes to their claim, they'll let us know, and then we'll in turn let the employer know. So for example, let's say an employee is out for a wrist surgery and they're recovering well and they're ready to come back sooner than their doctors originally told us. That worker will let the family division know, hey, I can go back sooner. And then we'll let the employer know about the change to that employee's claim. The key takeaway here, though, is that workers are required to tell their employees about their leave either 30 days in advance if the leave is foreseeable, or as soon as practicable for unforeseeable leaves. This is also important if your employer has additional employer-provided benefits available to top off an employee's family payments. Next, here are a few more claim details for employers. A lot of employers want to know when they'll be notified that an employee is seeking family leave. So here are some points to know. First, employers will be informed within 5 business days that an employee has applied for family leave. Employers will be able to request limited additional information, including the benefit amount and the reason for leave, if it's necessary for the employer to coordinate family benefits with other benefits. Employers need to know that this information is considered confidential and needs to be kept in a separate file outside of their typical personnel files. And finally, employees do have an obligation not only to notify their employer in advance of the leave, but also to make a reasonable effort to schedule their leave in a way that doesn't unduly disrupt the employer's operations. Next, I want to talk some about the coordination of benefits. Common question we get is how family works with employer-provided PTO. Workers cannot be forced to use their accrued paid time off before or during family leave. However, an employee may choose to use their PTO before taking family leave if that's what they'd like to do. Also, employers and employees can mutually agree to use PTO to top off the family benefit to get them up to that sort of 100% wage replacement rate. However, that agreement has to be in writing between the employer and the employee. And then if PTO is used to supplement family leave, the total amount paid from both PTO and family can't exceed the employee's average weekly wage. If it does, then that results in an overpayment that the employer can recoup. Next, we'll talk a little bit about family and healthcare benefits. While an employee is on leave, employers are required to maintain their healthcare benefits just as if the employee had not taken leave. And employees are still required to pay their premiums toward those healthcare benefits. Our healthcare benefits include health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, and mental health services provided by the employer. As far as how the employer can collect the premiums from an employee while they're out on leave, they have a few options. One, if the employer is topping off their family leave with PTO, then they can execute those deductions from those PTO top-off payments. They can wait and deduct those wages when the employee returns to work. They can enter into a repayment plan with the employee, or they can collect the amount through any other legal means. Family does not entitle employees to continue accruing employer-provided paid leave or any other benefits other than the health insurance, healthcare benefits while they're out on family leave. I'll also note that if an employer wants to deduct wages to recoup or to collect those premium obligations, make sure that they're doing so in accordance with the Colorado Wage Act. Another common question we get is, how does the family benefit interact with workers' compensation? So generally, family benefits may not be taken with workers' compensation benefits for the same reason for the absence. If someone is absent from work because of a work-related injury or illness, they can't simultaneously claim family benefits for that same condition. However, if they're still working after the injury or illness and need to take leave for an unrelated issue, family benefits may be available. Any condition compensable under the workers' compensation umbrella is not eligible for family benefits generally. Applicants and healthcare providers have to disclose this information at the outset. And then if an individual discloses that the cause of their serious health condition is a workplace-related injury or illness, then the only way that they can qualify for family benefits is by proving that they are ineligible for workers' comp benefits for that injury or illness. Next, I'll talk briefly about how family works with the federal FMLA. Colorado's family program is designed to run concurrently with the FMLA, where the reason for family leave also constitutes a reason for the FMLA. However, we don't administer or govern FMLA compliance. So if a worker applies for FMLA, the employer has to tell that worker that the employee may be eligible for paid leave under the family program, and has to deliver to that employee the family program notice that's available on our website. But ultimately, for employers who have questions about an employee's FMLA entitlement, those questions should be directed ultimately to the U.S. Department of Labor or for in-house counsel. Next, briefly on unemployment benefits. Similar to workers' comp, workers can't collect benefits from both family division and unemployment insurance for the same time for the same absence. And again, workers have to disclose to us any unemployment payments received while they're out on family. And if we determine that an employee has received either unemployment or workers' comp at the same time as family and they weren't supposed to, then that generates an overpayment of family benefits that the family division can recoup. Next, briefly discuss the intersection of family benefits and short-term disability and long-term disability policies. Basically, if the reason for family leave also qualifies for short-term or long-term disability, the employer can count both the wage replacement amount and the duration of the family leave toward the limits and obligations in the short-term and long-term disability policies, so long as it first gives written notice to the employees. Also, so long as it's in compliance with the actual written terms of that short-term or long-term disability policy. We do have some more details on our website on our proposed and adopted rules page. And at the bottom of that page, we have supplemental guidance on 4 areas. One of them is coordinating family benefits with these STD benefits. We also have some published guidance there about healthcare benefits, advanced payments, and pregnancy and childbirth complications. Next, I want to talk some about the one of the newest features for employers in our employer portal, My Family Plus Employer, and that's the HR dashboard, or otherwise known as the claims dashboard. Colorado is actually the first state in the country with a paid leave program that has this kind of functionality for employers, and so far it's been working pretty well. The HR dashboard was created so that employers can review the family leave statuses for all their employees in a single place. If you click a claim, you can see additional information such as the leave reason and the leave amount, so long as you go through the appropriate attestations that you actually need to access this information for benefits coordination. The HR dashboard serves as a supplement to the notifications that the claim system sends out to employers. So there is some information that is only given in those notices and not presented in this dashboard. Typically, the account administrator will determine who has access to this dashboard. If the proper person is not receiving those notices via mail and email, the account administrator should add the contact information for the HR benefits manager in My Family Plus Employer. This designated contact will be the go-to person who receives documentation when an employee applies for family leave. If a point of contact is not provided for the HR benefits manager in My Family Plus Employer, then employee benefit documentation will be sent to the main email address and mailing address for the account holder on file. Here's a little preview of the HR dashboard. The employer name is at the top, and then you'll see a list of claims attached to that employer. You can search by name, date of birth, last four of the Social Security, by leave type, claim status, claim number, or by leave start date. The dashboard will show claims from the last 367 days. So once a year has passed since a claim was completed, it will no longer show up here. There are a couple of instances when a claim would not show up here. The first is if the claim is still in draft status and has not yet been submitted by the claimant. And the second is if a claim has been closed, which means that a claimant has not responded to a request for additional information within the allotted time, and that claim has automatically been closed out. In any other instance where the claim is within the last year, it'll show up here on the dashboard. Now I want to talk briefly about private plans. As you probably know, employers have the option to meet their family obligations with a private plan instead of participating in the state plan. If you're interested in a private plan, there is a list of approved insurance carriers offering those on our newly updated private plan website. Broadly, employers applying for a private plan approval must apply with us, pay a $500 one-time application fee, provide proof of purchase of a state-approved carrier plan or a completed self-insured private plan. And if they're going the self-insured route, they have to submit proof of a surety bond. And then finally, anybody has to submit their benefit claim forms if they're applying for a private plan. So we can review those forms and confirm that they're not any more onerous or burdensome than the forms available under the state plan. And then finally, they have to provide a copy of their notification to employees with an effective date no earlier than 60 calendar days from the date that the private plan application is submitted. So in order to be approved by the division, a private plan must offer all the same benefits, rights, and protections. And so those include, but they're not limited to, offering at least the same benefits duration, at least the same wage replacement rate for each week of benefits. They can't include any additional requirements or conditions as there are in the state plan. They can't deduct any more from employees' paychecks as they could if they're participating in the state plan. And again, that's capped currently at 0.45% of the employee's gross wages. They have to provide for the confidentiality of employee information related to family benefits and provide for the separate storage of that confidential information, just like they would under the state plan. And they have to comply with all requirements established by the family division. The private plan administrator also has to submit quarterly summaries of the previous calendar quarters. The private plan administration summaries must be submitted by the last day of the month immediately following the end of the calendar quarter addressed by the summaries. So that means that summaries are due for quarter one. Well, sorry, I'm looking at the slide and some of these dates might not be quite right. It would be the end of April, the end of July, the end of October, or the end of January. Those are the reporting deadlines quarterly. After the private plan has been active for 3 years, the plan administrator has to submit only an annual salary due on January 30th of each year, annual summary, I'm sorry, on January 30th of each year, unless otherwise requested by the division. Starting in 2025, employers with approved private plans will be subject to an annual maintenance fee based on family division costs specific to those employers. The maintenance fee is the calculation of costs that include but aren't limited to costs to return the employer to the family program, costs to audit the plan, and costs to administer any appeals that arose out of that private plan. Employers may also apply to change their approved private plan, which may also impact their annual maintenance fee. The Family Act does require us to pass along those costs to employers that choose to go the private plan route. In other words, the voters mandated that private plan administration has to be fund neutral. We have to pass those costs back along to the employers that choose to go the private plan route. Next, I want to talk a little bit about what happens after a family leave is completed. I know a lot of workers aren't sure how they'll get their job back or what their rights are when they need to step away from the job. So Colorado voters put some robust job protections in the Family Act to make sure that no one ends up getting punished or fired simply because they needed to use a benefit that they are paying for. And so here are a few things that employers cannot do while an employee is out on leave. First, the family employers can't retaliate against employees who need to take some paid time off. That basically means they can't take any adverse action against an employee based on their protected activity. We do have a retaliation interference rule published on our website that gives a lot more detail there. But some examples of unlawful retaliation would be discipline or docking their pay, or perhaps even reducing their hours or something because they've chosen to engage in protected activity. The protected activity is generally most often applying for family leave or taking the leave, but it also includes things like telling others about leave, talking about family, and participating in an audit or an investigation. Similar but slightly different, there's also a job protection aspect to family. Workers who have been on with their current employer at least 180 days before taking their leave have to be reinstated to their same job or an equivalent job after they return from leave. And again, it's always confidential when a Colorado worker tells their employer that they need to access paid family leave and the reasons why. Next, I want to talk a little bit about interference. That's something slightly different than retaliation. And this is something else that employers can't do. They can't interfere with workers exercising their protected activity. So for example, they can't threaten an employee. They can't give an employee false information. They can't, file frivolous grievances, those sorts of things that would work to interfere with someone's protected activity. One thing that's important to note that is specifically called out is mentioning immigration status. Non-citizens who work in Colorado are paying the exact same premiums into this insurance fund, and they can access benefits just the same as any other worker. So any employer or manager who makes some sort of comment that workers might get reported to immigration or something like that if they try to take family leave would be on the wrong side of the law, because that would almost certainly constitute unlawful interference with their right to access those family benefits. Next, a little bit more about reinstatement. Employers are required to reinstate employees who were there at least 180 days prior to taking the leave. They have to reinstate them either to their same position or to an equivalent position. And we've got some more details in our rules published online that talk about what it means for a position to be equivalent. They're also still counted as an employee while they're on leave, so long as the employer expects them to return to work. But This doesn't mean that everybody necessarily has to be reinstated. There are some limited circumstances where employers aren't obligated to reinstate someone. Employers are not obligated to overlook performance issues. They are not obligated to hold back on legitimate reorganizations or downsizing, and they don't have to magically create a job. They are not obligated to extend the season of their operation. Again, for some more details on the limited circumstances where employers don't have to reinstate someone who's been there for at least 180 days, take a look at our retaliation and interference rules on our proposed and adopted rules page on the family website. Next, just a quick reminder that our late fees, penalties, and interests, that's coming. We've had in our rules since the beginning of the year the authority to assess late fees and penalties for non and late wage reporting and non and late premium payments. We have sort of given employers a grace period to get used to the family program and get used to operating with the system and those obligations. But starting in November, we will start assessing those interests and penalties for late wage reports and non-payment of premiums. Another feature that we recently added is a page telling employers and employees when and how to report suspicious activity to the family division. Unfortunately, many states have seen a rise in fraudulent activity, identity theft, phishing attacks, and other scams targeting claimants of wage replacement programs like unemployment insurance and family and medical leave insurance. So we create a special page where you can find tips on how to protect yourself, as well as options to report identity theft, a compromised My Family Plus account, or any other suspected fraud related to the family program. As we mentioned, Colorado employers will be hearing from us when any of their employees submit a family claim. We'll be giving employers status updates on those claims, including the duration of approved claim. So please file one of these fraud reports if you get any kind of notification that someone is taking family leave, but that someone doesn't work for you, or that someone isn't in fact taking leave. Also, let us know if you notice any discrepancies between employee names and their social security numbers or individual taxpayer ID numbers, or if you see any reported work schedules that don't sync up with your records. We also have instructions for individuals and a link to the Attorney General's Identity Theft Repair Kit on that page on our website. If you have a question that comes up at a later date, we invite you to engage with us, and you can do so in a number of ways. The best way is to call our call center for those run-of-the-mill everyday questions. We also post all of our updates, so please find us on your socials, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Also check out our Facebook page for frequent live chats where we'll have an expert on to answer your questions live, and highly recommend that you subscribe to our monthly newsletter on the website. And with that, I will take a drink of water and we'll open it up for some questions.
We already have a question that came in through the Q&A, by the way. I didn't know if you guys saw the notification. I didn't know if y'all wanted to read it or if you would like me to.
I can read it. I was just trying to, I was going to give Evan a little bit of a break. I know he'd had a lot of talking to do.
Yeah, that was amazing though, Evan. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope we got, we covered, or we were able to cover most of what you're really looking for. But with that said, do you want me to go ahead and read the question, Kayla or Teresa, or do you want to?
No, go ahead, guys.
Okay.
You just let me know if you need anything.
Okay. Let's see. We have a question from Teresa, and she was wondering, can an employer require a document from the employee's medical provider providing proof that they are physically able to return to work?
Yes, generally. We stated in our benefits rules that's available on our website that nothing in family precludes an employer from requiring a return to work certification.
Is that, so that's referring to for returning to work only? What about for the, like for their serious health condition form?
What do you mean?
So if they are going, so I guess if you're, so, okay, so I took family leave recently. So if HR asked me for proof that why I was, taking leave, is that okay for me to give that to them?
I mean, if you want to give your employer information about your family leave, you're welcome to. But typically, employees don't have to divulge information about their family leave claim. And if an employer needs information in order to, coordinate benefits, then they can attest to that and access that information in the HR benefits dashboard. But otherwise, if the employer doesn't need that information for coordination of benefits, then they don't have an avenue to access that through family. If they're asking the employee, I would just suggest talk to in-house counsel and exercise caution to make sure that the questions that you're asking aren't interfering with the employee's protected activity.
Okay. Thanks, Evan. Regarding the HR dashboard, Debbie is asking, is it in the same locations as the premium dashboard? And how do they sign up for that? And I can help with that if you want to as well.
Sure, I'll let you take that.
Well, I know, Debbie, that it's actually not the same as a premium dashboard of your premiums dashboard, and you need to have the permissions as an administrator. So if you have somebody in your office that is the administrator, they would need to give you that permission, and then you should be able to access that dashboard, and it should be on your main, you should be able to find a link to that on your main page or the tab for it. And let's see, we'll move on to the next question. Sarah is asking, can insurance companies require that the employees use the family leave before using short-term disability and long-term disability for leaves?
And the broad answer is yes. Those insurance carriers can require family leave to be exhausted before the covered employee can access that STD benefit.
Thank you. And Alejandro is asking, can a new employee be ordered family benefits if they had their child prior to starting employment with the company?
So, one, no employee can be ordered to take family benefits. That is the employee's decision. But to maybe speak more broadly about this, if the entitlement to take leave to bond with a new child does not require that the child is born while the employee is working for their current employer. So say, for example, I had a new child in February, and I was working for John Doe's Lock and Key, and then I don't take leave from John Doe's Lock and Key, and then I become fortunate enough to get a job with the family division. I can take leave to care for the new child, so long as it's within the first year after that child's birth, or if it's adoption or foster care within the first year after the child's placement.
Thanks, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Christy is asking this question, and I can help you a little bit with it, and then I will ask you to make sure that my answer is correct. I would like some clarity. There was a mention that you can't discriminate or retaliate against non-documented workers using the system, but Social Security numbers are required. So are non-documented workers eligible for payment with or without a Social Security number? And what I can say, Christy, is that we also, along with having taking a Social Security number, we also have an ITN number as well. So if the worker has an ITM or an ITN number, that is one way that they can be in the system. And Evan, is there something else you wanted to add to that? I think you might want to.
I think what you're saying is the TIN number,
Sorry.
which is the taxpayer identification number. No, that's
Yeah.
fine. And so, undocumented immigrants can still obtain a TIN number. And so we require one of the two in order to access benefits. You either have to have a social security number or a TIN number.
Thank you for helping me clarify with that.
No problem.
Teresa, Tammy is asking, what do you do if your employee is on family leave, or if your employee that is on family leave is working another job during your scheduled hours they would normally work at your company?
That's something we would love to know about, because that might be fraud. So you can't be said to be taking leave from 9 to 5 and also be said to have a job from 9 to 5. This additional job may suggest that they don't need the family leave at all. In any event, the scenario can get complicated beyond that, but as a general rule, if your employee is working while they're receiving family benefits and you think that it might be fishy, let us know. We want to hear about it.
And then just a little aside from what Evan is saying too, we do have workers can take leave from maybe if they're working 2 jobs, they may be able to still work one of the jobs, but maybe not the other job. So we do have some additional information about that on our website, what to do or when a worker is working 2 jobs and how that may work. And I can make sure to forward that information to you as well. So then it will come to you. Let's see, Paul is asking, can our notification about family leave availability be sent out to the entire organization annually, or does it need to be given to each employee when they request leave?
Our notification, the program notice has to be posted somewhere conspicuous, just like you have to post all these other posters. You also have to individually deliver it to employees upon hire, and you also have to individually deliver it to employees once you find out that they might need family, which can happen by them taking FMLA. If they request federal FMLA leave, you have to deliver that program notice as well. But the good thing is we made the notice for you. So you can, post it, deliver it to all your brand new employees, deliver it to all your employees that apply for FMLA leave, and deliver it to any employee that reasonably implicates that they need it.
And we do have those on our website in our toolkit. If you want more information about that, that would be so it's very, yeah. And there's you can download it as well in order to send it out to you or to your employees. Jacqueline is asking, can employees of small businesses that are not participating in the program still receive benefits?
So I want to address 2 things. One, I think there might have been some miscommunication in the notes that I was reading for the presentation. Simply being a small employer does not exempt you from participating in family. So there is no small employer opt-out. If you're a Colorado employer, and what it means to be an employer, there's a little bit of nuance there. But if you have 1 employee, you're an employer, and so if you're an employee in Colorado and you're covered by the program, regardless of your employer size, you can take leave. And those employers owe us premiums, regardless of their size. It just impacts how much. If the employer has 9 or fewer employees, then they owe us 0.45% of their employees' premiums, and they're allowed to, but not required, to collect that full 0.45% from their employees. If the employer has 10 or more employees, then they owe us 0.9%, and they're allowed, but not required, to collect up to 0.45% from their employees. In other words, how much the employer owes us is either going to be 0.9% or 0.45%, depending on their size. And in both of those circumstances, they're allowed to collect up to 0.45% of their employees' wages as a contribution toward their obligation to us.
Thanks, Evan. I caught that in the notes too. I'll make sure to go get that changed.
Great.
And then Jessica is asking if we'll receive a copy of the slides. And yep, I will make sure to forward a copy of the presentation slides to so that it can be distributed to everyone who's in attendance today. And it looks like we are through the slot or through the questions in the chat. Oh,
Actually, Michelle, I got a couple. I don't know if they just came to me directly.
I can
Okay.
see a few in the Q&A.
Yeah, I just saw those
Q&A.
too.
Okay. Do you wanna, I can ask them. Do employees' salary and commissions both count toward their weekly pay for benefit calculations?
And the answer is yes. It includes all gross wages. And again, how we do that is we look at past closed calendar quarters. We have to come up with an employee's average weekly wage. And the way that the law mandates that we do that is basically we look at the previous 5 closed calendar quarters, and we take the wages earned in the most lucrative of those previous 5 closed calendar quarters, and we divide that number by 13. So it will often be the case that benefits don't quite match up with current wages because benefits are never calculated based on current wages. Benefits are always calculated on past wages.
Okay. And then the next question is, if an employer has 2 employees that are married and have a baby, are both employees eligible for 12 weeks of paid leave?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, we got one more. Who would I contact if I'm not able to log in, as it tells me I'm not attached to a company, which I've been reporting?
I would suggest probably calling the call center.
Okay. Awesome. And then, I'm sorry, did you answer the question about receiving a copy of the webinar?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I think I was trying to figure out the questions. Are grandparents able to take paid leave for a new grandbaby?
Yes. Maybe.
Okay.
So if the leave is to care for a family member's serious health condition, then your grandchild is part of your family, and you can do it for that reason. If the reason for leave is to bond with a new child, you have to be their parent. But what we mean by that is you have to either be their biological parent, their adoptive parent, or you have to stand in loco parentis to the child. And so that's the practical reality with some grandparents, is that they are standing in the place of mom or dad and raising that child. And so if that's the case and they do stand in loco parentis to the child, then they would be eligible for that bonding.
All right, okay. Oh, see, they keep coming in. How robust is your fraud prevention? Our experience with this program made us feel like it is an open door to potential and significant fraud.
I mean, I can say that it's robust. We certainly have a whole unit dedicated to it. But like I said earlier, we invite and appreciate any reports from employers who see something fishy or suspicious.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for this webinar. I know we were getting a lot of questions, and so it's just really helpful to have the experts going through the benefits and then answering these great questions that we've received. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye all.
Take care.